Hola!
I'm Johanna.
And I'm Denisse.
Welcome and bienvenidos to the Love and Evolve podcast, where we discuss topics surrounding holistic wellness, such as mental, physical, and spiritual health. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer.
Love and Evolve Wellness Podcast is a community space for conversation, growth, and healing. However, it is not a substitute for professional mental or medical care. El podcast no sustituye ayuda psicológica o médica.
We encourage you to seek resources and support in your community. We love you, los queremos mucho, and you matter to us.
Thank you for listening, and on to the show. Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of the Love and Evolve podcast.
Hello!
Hello, it's Denisse.
And Joe.
Yep. So today's episode is a sort of a continuation, building on the topic of self-love, and we'll be talking about it through body image. And that's another huge topic, but we're going to talk about it. We're going to do this. It's an important one.
Absolutely. Body image is such a big component of our day-to-day. And I almost want to drop the image part because I feel like it has some connotations to it. But I think that's worth exploring, right? Like that's what we're doing is that, well, what is that about? Why is the image part have a connotation and what is that? And I think it means something different to everyone.
Yeah, we would love to. We're hoping to share a little bit about our experiences and what's influenced our own relationship with our bodies. Try and discuss a little bit of those factors and what that might be, as well as I am hoping to offer a few takeaway exercises for you to then further explore this on your own. So I am excited for that.
Me too.
Where should we start? I'm really interested in what you just talked about, like releasing this image part.
Yeah, so let me talk a little bit more about that. I think when I hear the word body image, it brings back a lot that I experienced growing up. And it's this idea that our body is supposed to look a certain way. And so when I hear the words body image, it's almost like it's setting the expectation that it has to look a certain way. And I think what I have come to is to feel that it's more about how do I feel in relation to my body? Like, what does my body do for me? And what do I do with my body? How do we co-create together?
Yeah, it's a relationship. Yeah, and I can see how saying body image, where it's like the image takes over. It's this thing you have to wear versus what is being experienced, which is really the relationship.
Exactly. And I mean, just like thinking back, like I've really struggled with eating issues throughout my life, and they've come from different places. One has come from, how I dealt with stress. For a period of time in my life, whenever I experienced high levels of stress, I wouldn't get hungry and I wouldn't eat. And then my body would go periods without eating proper food. And that would have an impact on my mood. It would have an impact on my health. And it wasn't good. And so that was one part. And then the other side of that was this cultural and social expectation. Like I always felt like no matter what side I was on that spectrum, it was never enough. Like I was either, I remember like being at family gatherings and having people tell me like, oh, estás muy flaca, ¿por qué no comes o qué? And I'm like, I eat. And then, you go through puberty and you start developing and things change, your body changes. And, then it would be like, oh, estás muy gorda, pues ¿qué comes? And it's just like all this criticism. And it got me to a place where it was like, I didn't really know any better. So it was like, well, if they are saying this is how I'm seen, then it must be true. And it just really did a number on me because it made it to where I didn't see my body for what it was. It was for for all the other things that I was, quote, supposed to be. And I took it for granted. I didn't nourish it properly, did some really risky things to it. And I just, it's a very difficult thing to go through, especially if that's what you're hearing all the time.
Yeah, and very difficult, especially as you're growing up and you're developing and changes are happening that are like beyond your control, right? Hormones and
Yeah.
age, and your mind is still growing and developing, and to have to try and make sense of what society is telling you. And then also trying to make sense of the messaging that you are receiving from your culture and your family when you are so young still, and trying to create your own relationship with this body that is ever changing. And it's like, how are we supposed to be able to understand all of the influences, the pieces that influenced our parents, grandparents, right? Because they're dealing with their stuff too. And then without realizing, they're then putting that on us. So it's like all of these layers. And yet we are so hard on ourselves when we feel not pretty, or we don't feel like we fit in our own skin. And it's like there's just so much noise out there that we have to just process and deal with.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, it's like, I remember, when I first really got so focused on my body, like I felt there was a part of me that if I can reach a specific look, then all my problems will be resolved. I will be looked at by men a certain way. I will be looked at by women a certain way. And so it was like this idea that if I can become that, then I will be noticed, I will be seen, I will be worthy of something. And, of course, I went through the whole process. I was dieting, I was working out, I was, but it wasn't in a healthy way. I was like obsessively working out. And it got to the point where I physically began to feel like, oh, my body's starting to look good and I feel good, that it looks physically good. Like it was this, let me make sure that I make sense. I'm going to try to say that again. So I would look at myself in the mirror and I would be like, oh, she looks good. But inside, I felt sick. I felt hungry. I felt like just gross. And I was like, what is it about that? And I looked back at pictures and I'm like, wow, I looked really good. But I remember how I felt. I did not feel good about myself in all of that. And, fast forward years later, after I've had all these health issues and all these things come up, now I'm like, I'm in a place where my body doesn't look the way that it looked then. I'm much curvier now than I was then, but I love my body more now than I ever did. And so it's kind of like, really our ideas of what our body should look like and what people tell us it should look like are not really the goal. The goal is to find a way to love and accept ourselves from the inside out and begin to love our bodies as they are.
Yeah. And you just got me to think about this book, of course. I love and adore books. And this one that I got from the Feminist book box. What month are we in? I think, is it February?
February.
The book is The Body Is Not an Apology. And I am so excited to read it. I haven't read it, but just in that title,
wow,
your body is not an
powerful.
Apology. It does not have to explain anything to anyone. You don't have to say, oh, I'm sorry that the way my body appears to you, how it's expressing on the outside, that may be bothering you. Like that, so many of us live in that exchange, when really, no, I don't need to apologize because I'm the one who's living in it. So if you're feeling some kind of way,
That's
Sorry, not
your
sorry.
thing.
Mhm,
Yeah.
that's your
It's like,
thing.
you gotta go deal with it, not me.
Right. Yeah, because I'm either feeling myself or your perception of how I should be looking is actually hurting me. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I really don't want to hear what you think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I'm not going to apologize for the way I'm living in my body and how I'm appearing on the outside, because what appears on the outside tells very little, um,
Mm-hmm.
which then gets me to think about those factors that do influence how we think about ourselves. So, gender expression,
Mm-hmm.
um, ableism,
Mm-hmm.
ageism, weight, that's one, height, skin color,
Mm-hmm.
skinny girl privilege, right? Because there's this privilege that does come from being in a body that looks a certain way that is mostly accepted by society.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and stereotypes, I think, can also be lumped in there. And the one example that comes to mind is as being someone who identifies as being Latina,
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, women across the board experience this, but of being sexualized.
Mm-hmm.
And that, and I can only speak for myself as being Latina, but then suddenly I'm like, I've got this label of being sexy just because I live in the body that I live in. So, a little story, when I was in middle school, I had a big butt because I was just growing into myself, right?
Hey.
But I hated it because I was
Mm-hmm.
completely aware of what that would look like or how it could be taken. So I would wrap sweatshirts around my waist. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
that ended up making me look even more big butted. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, at the time, I thought I was hiding it and it was not, it was just not seen by being covered under a sweatshirt. But because I knew that being in a curvier body, that someone could down the street, you know, make a cat call or something, be like, oh, hey,
Mm-hmm.
girl, because that can happen, or I'd be calling attention to myself. So not only do I live in brown skin, but now I've got these curves and, you know, yada, yada, yada,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that stuff. So there are definitely stereotypes too. So, I mean, what was that, like half a dozen? And I know there are more other factors that can come into this uh, relationship.
That's just really so. As I heard you talk about your middle school experience, I actually got really sad, and
Oh,
I
mm-hmm,
was like, "Oh, what's that about?" Like,
mm-hmm,
part of it is, empathy for what you had to experience, and anger and frustration. That, like, why should you have to hide your body? Like,
mm-hmm.
what is that about? And then the other part is that it reminded me of when I was in elementary school. And I'm about to share some real personal stuff here that I didn't even think would come up right now.
Oh, yeah.
And so just bear with me. I'm a little nervous about it. Um, and part of that is that when I was in elementary school, I I'm pretty sure I was one of the first girls in that class that started puberty.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of an awkward elementary kid. I still am awkward, but now I embrace it.
I love it. I love awkward.
But growing up, like, if you're different, if you're odd, if you're quirky, like, it kind of puts you in a certain place. And then I remember getting this terrible bowl cut, but it was so short. And so to others, people were like, how, like, are you a girl? Are you a boy? Because, I had this boy cut, what would look like a boy cut.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had just started puberty, my body started changing. All of a sudden now I had boobs and booty and all these things. And then, guys were saying things about it. Girls were saying things about it, and they were changing the way they were treating me because of how my body started changing. Even before I had the time to even think about how I felt about my body changing. And the worst part is that it became a very negative thing.
Yeah.
It was like, I remember the guys telling me, oh, está bien chichona. And like, I could hear it.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me was like, oh, it brought shame to that part of my body. Like, and so I remember wearing like like layers of clothing so it would flatten my chest down. I remember slouching, and so it kind of created, with time, that created this like lack of self-confidence and just fear of letting my curve show, because that meant that men were going to speak about it a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And with the girls, it was like, well, you can't play with us because you like boy things and you like sports, and you're like, I was excluded from the girls' groups because I wasn't girly enough. And so it was just this idea like of like forcing me into a category. And I was like, well, what if I like both? Like, why does it have to be, so one-sided? And so I really felt left out, and I struggled. I struggled in elementary school to really feel like I could embrace my own body. I don't think it was until like now that I'm an adult and I'm like, now I love my body, but man, and of course
Those
it's
years.
not, of course it's not perfect, but like, I'm still learning to love it every single day, but it's so much repair work from that kind of trauma, I want to say. Like that's really traumatic.
Yeah, it really is. I just had to take a deep breath in because that was a lot for you to release and to share. So thank you for doing that. You had mentioned that it was unexpected, but I am really grateful that it poured out, and it was really, I think it could really help other people to hear, because I know many of us have had that kind of experience. So thank you for sharing that and for being so vulnerable there with us. And you should never have to apologize for your experience. How we live in our bodies is so personal, and it's not just all these things like, gender expression or our height or skin color, but there can be things such as life, just life. If you give birth to a child, I mean, what an experience, right?
Oh boy.
I don't know anything about it, but I have such respect. So for anyone to think that our bodies are not going to change, I'm like, hold on, let's think about all the things we live through and we experience, all these, the ups and the downs and the gifts as well, because that all has a part to play as well. And our relationship with our body will change. And I don't know about you, but I actually think it's a good if it evolves. We want it to evolve, that it's not frozen in time, that we recognize that we do have this evolution to go through with our bodies, this relationship. So also bear with me if it seems like I'm going off tangent, but the other thing that came to mind was another mini story time was bringing in medication, bringing that into the topic, and how that can impact our bodies and how it shows up on the outside. So for me, that was birth control. And oh man, I can go on and on about reproductive rights and education, all that. Joe's like,
Next episode.
To keep it on topic, first of all, the reason I started birth control originally was because of my skin. The kind that I was on really did wonders for my skin. I had such insecurity about, that's the other thing, right? Acne. That's also an experience of body image. But so that was a part of mine, and it cleared up my skin and I felt great. But around that same time, I didn't realize the impact it would have of how I felt in my own body. It wasn't until I got off of it, and I was on it, probably scary to say, I think like 15 years, a really long time, because I started in high school. And it wasn't until I got off that I realized that I was so disconnected from my body. It really played a big role in how I felt about my weight, because it did have me put on a bit of weight that I was always like, wait, why can't I get rid of this? I don't understand. I'm eating healthy and I'm exercising. Like, I don't get it. Um, and it wasn't me. It was all the hormones, the medication that I was taking. It had me feeling really like hinchada, like I was inflamed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like I was swollen. So it wasn't like,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, it's not as simple as saying, oh, I feel chubby. Like I literally felt like I was inflamed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when I finally got off of that, uh, it was really dramatic, the difference. I could suddenly feel my body again.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah.
wild. I was like, wait, hold on. How did I
Mm-hmm.
not know about these things? How did I not know I should be asking questions about how it might impact how I felt in my own body, and therefore how
Mm-hmm.
I felt about myself, and also how I appeared to myself. Um, that once I was off that weird weight and that feeling of being like swollen or inflamed, it went away.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh, this is me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how many other women are going through this. But if you are, you are not the only one. Not
Mm-hmm.
the only one. So medication and injuries or illnesses, that can all play a role in how we are experiencing our bodies and the relationship that we have in whatever
Yeah.
moment in time.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right about all of what you just shared. There's a book that I absolutely love that covers, like, this book opened my eyes to asking questions to my OBGYN, and
Mm-hmm.
to realize that you really have to advocate for yourself if you're like, I
Yeah.
want to learn more about what is actually in these birth control pills. And I mean, again, future episode, because we could go on and on forever about this, but like, that just opened my eyes to so many things about how that really impacts not just your body, but your mood, um, your eating habits, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're on it. Yeah, that I agree with everything you shared.
And going back to not being an apology, I mean, if you are able to ask the questions and advocate for yourself and then go through your pros and cons of having to take or deciding to take a medication, that you then don't have to apologize for however your body reacts to it, you know? So I wonder if this would be a good time to, I have two exercises that I hope will be helpful for you if you want to explore the relationship that you have with your body. And I've done it for myself too. And because it's easy for us to say, I don't like this, I don't like that. I'd like to reframe that our body is a gift. And to be in the body that you're in, it's a privilege, and I mean privilege in a way that privilege is also a gift. So then how do you use this gift to bring joy to yourself and others? So let me give you an example. So as you're doing this, you can title this and say, my body is a gift, and list out the ways that your body has gifted you connections to yourself and loved ones. So one example can be, my gift is the way that I dance to bachata, salsa, or whatever, and the way that my hips sway. Or my gift is the hair that I have that I share with my grandmother that I love so dearly, and we both have the same curl pattern. So things like that bring you connection and joy, to see your body as the gift that it is. And then with that, you can accompany it with a drawing or a collage or a photo to then capture the feeling that you have, for the ways that your body is a gift.
What a powerful tool. This is the first time I'm hearing about this exercise. Like, I think I might have seen it with like a collage, like, take different things that you feel represent you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's one, put a collage together that you feel others believe should represent you. Or hang on, let me
Yeah.
make, did I say that right? So one is a collage of who you believe is yourself and what beauty means to you. And
Mm-hmm.
then the other one would be an image of you based on what others are expecting of you. And then it allows
Mm.
to kind of compare and look and see like, wait, where's this not aligning and what is happening?
Yeah.
So this is beautiful. Like I never heard of the way that you explained it, and I'm gonna try it.
Oh, yeah. There's so many ways you could take this, just with your example as well. And you can take this beyond your physical body. Your gift can be that when I did it for myself, I said, oh, my gift are my worries because they show how much I care about others and how I deeply love them. So it doesn't have to be um, how you're experiencing your body, but it can be other things. If bringing a focus to your body feels like you're not quite ready for that, you can then also look at other ways that that you are a gift to the people in your life and to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, if you're more of a journaling person, is to think about, so there are three parts. The first part is to think about the messaging that have influenced you in your relationship with your body. So this is, okay, what are the cultural messages? What are the messages my parents or guardians gave me that I then took in and internalized? So trying to go to the root, to the source, journaling on that. So the messages that influenced your relationship with your body. That's the first part. Second part is, now that you know that and you're looking at all of that, how do you feel about how you were influenced? And is that aligning with how you want to live in your body? And also, how are you living in your body right now? What's that relationship like? So in part one, you're seeing where it all came from. And in part two, you're looking at, okay, how is this presently living out? And do I feel aligned with this? Right? Because there can still be messages that are influencing you. And then the third part is, how do you want your relationship with your body to evolve? What do you want it to really feel like? And how will you know once you've felt that change happen? So it's the, what do you want? That's the one that's full of love. And if you could change anything, what do you want it to be like? So that is the 3-part journaling exercise. And if you're kind of artsy like me, you can think about it as like, or a visual person, you can think about it as putting on an outfit. So it's like you've dressed yourself, you put this bomb ass outfit on, or so you thought. And then you're like, wait a minute, what influenced me to put on these pants? Why did I dress this way? And then you're walking down the street and you're seeing how people react to your outfit. And you're like, wait, why are they reacting to me that way? Did I really want to put this on? And then going back home and saying, okay, I like these and these and these pieces. And now I'm going to put on this accessory and change this. And now I've got my outfit. Now I'm good. I don't care about the messaging. I've come to a place that this outfit for sure is now bomb. If that makes sense.
Yes, queen. I think that this is such a beautiful way to dive in deeper into our relationship with our bodies. I think like I'll share a little bit about an exercise that I did, and hearing this, it reminded me of this. And I feel like this is when I really began to shift from looking at my body as it has to look this way to I want to feel good from within. And whatever the outcome is on the outside is the outcome on the outside.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. And so what happened is I went to this workshop, and this was actually for a financial freedom class. This is what the title was of this course. And as I'm learning about, how money is energy, I started to think about how my relationship with my body is energy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, hang on a second. If I apply these concepts to my relationship with my body, then I'll be able to not only understand how all of these things that I've learned with time, socially, culturally, been conditioned to know and how to view my body, I'll understand it. But I will also be able to reflect on what do I want it to be and how do I get there? And it was just like this. I was there to learn about how to get financially free, and my brain's over here like, ooh. It was a layered healing process. And really what I came out of that was like, the first question was, what is your relationship with money? So what is your relationship with your body? Like, this is how it was translating in my head. And then the next question was like, how did you develop this relationship? What were the things that influenced you to develop that relationship? Mm-hmm. And then thinking about how all of those pieces are creating all this energy. And if we think about how, the idea that our thoughts create our reality, if we are taking all of these concepts, and that is how we talk to ourselves, and that is how we relate to our body, that is what we are going to continue to see. Mm-hmm. But if we want to feel good in our bodies, confident, sexy, and owning it, and just feeling good in it, then it has to come up by going to the root and identifying, why do I think the way that I think? Mm-hmm. What of this aligns with me? And what do I want it to become? And taking it and changing it and making it your own.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Boom. Eso.
Oh my God, this is so beautiful. Just to think the possibilities that we have in our power, the ability to change the way we view and love our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What a blessing to have our bodies in whatever way, shape, form. Oh, this was such a fun topic. And I feel so much appreciation and love. And I really look forward to hearing if you are going to go through any of these exercises. I mean, let me know.
Yes, please share with us. I want to know
if you... No, I'm sorry. That's just my love for Whitney coming out. Anyways.
Do not apologize. Let's do a reframe. I appreciate that you embrace my singing.
Thank you. And now please save me, or I will not know how to end our show.
So to wrap it all up, today we covered such a beautiful topic. Denisse has gone through and really thoroughly taken us through a journey of understanding, and considering how we can self-love our bodies and what that means and what it looks like. And understanding that it's all very different and we're all in different stages in that process. And even given us some tools and journaling exercises that we can do at home and really kind of develop that a little bit further.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, for joining us in this discussion and this exploration that went in so many beautiful routes. Thank you for listening, and thank you, Joe, for being vulnerable. And we look forward to another one. So until then, we love you.
I wanted to say one more thing.
Oh, yes, always. No, just kidding. We're done. Bye. No.
Oh, man. Okay. So lastly is that, just to keep in mind that our body is a temple and it is going to work with us however we decide to work with it. It's taken me a long time to recognize and own that I can co-create with my body in many different ways. And the more I learn about it, the more I nourish it, the more it gives back.
Mm-hmm. What an opportunity, right? Just to keep learning from it. There's always something new to learn. Another adventure.
Well, thank you, everybody. We love you.
Love
Gracias.
You. Mwah.
Mwah.
We thank you for sharing your time with us and for listening to the Love and Evolve podcast, where we share tools, resources, and education on topics that cover holistic wellness, encompassing mind, body, and spirit.
Find details on how to stay connected with us in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you. Les damos un fuerte y enorme abrazo. Mwah.
Mwah.